Sally Monastery, the president of Scripps Fine Arts Foundation, and we're happy to welcome you here this afternoon for this exciting lecture. And if there's anybody that would like to join our board, our main body of work is spent in early June setting up our programs for next year. So if you have seen a program or know of someone that really interests you that you would like us to explore for a program, let me know, or one of the board members as well. And now I'd like to introduce Kathy Garcia, who will introduce our speaker today.
Hi everybody, it's my pleasure today to introduce Marcella Swett as our speaker today. Most of us know her as Marcy, and as I look around the room, she has many friends. She's a local treasure, a Pomona treasure, still living in the Lincoln Park area. And she is a graduate of Mount SAC and also Cal State Fullerton. She has taught art at the School of Arts and Enterprise in Pomona. She taught there for 2 years. She also was the director of the Dog Gallery for 2 years in Pomona, if you know that. Also, for those of you that don't know Marcy, you probably have enjoyed her work at the fairgrounds because she did the artwork at the Flower Building for 15 years. So, she has been interested in chalk art, has been working in chalk art for over 30 years, and she currently works for Disney, and she's hoping to bring that exciting media to the Disney Corporation. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Marcy.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Kathy, and thank you to all of you for having me come and share what has turned into, what a hobby of mine has turned into pretty much a career.
So, stick it in your face.
Yeah, right there.
So. Sorry.
I'm going to give you a brief history and show you some slides and talk about how I kind of made my way to what I do as far as the chalk. And then afterwards, if you have any questions and you want to ask me anything, please do. So first of all, as Kathy said and introduced, my background, I'm from Southern California, born and raised, grew up in Hacienda Heights, and I got my degree at Cal State Fullerton. But the main thing that's key is my experience at Mount SAC is why I'm here. I was fortunate, and I get choked up, and I have been fortunate to be surrounded by and have been met and mentored by some amazing people, two of which were I called my art daddies. One of them was Walter Mix, so some of you might know who he is, or was. I get choked up, and Tom Herberg. And so when a group of us were going to school at Mount SAC, I had Walt as a teacher, and I had Tom as a teacher, and there were a few of us, and we thought we were the really cool artists. And they said, hey, there's this place in Pomona, you gotta go check it out. And we went to the Daw Center for the Arts. And I never left. So as like a young adult, a lot of friends came out of that. I met the wonderful Chris Tooby, who I called St. Christopher, who was sitting over there. And we fell in love with the area. And my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, and a group of us would come out, and we ended up helping to set up the art colony down there and bought a house in Lincoln Park, and we have never left. So I had to tell you that. So went to Fullerton, majored in drawing and painting, and worked at Aaron Brothers and did some drawing for I don't know if you remember, drawing there, but also went to Tower Records after there, and Tower Records would have the displays. So I learned how to airbrush. Girls didn't airbrush at that time. I had a great guy who, I was a sponge, and taught me how to airbrush. And through that, I was like, I'd see the billboards, go out to LA and go to Hollywood. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. So tenacity, knocked on doors, did what I had to, and I made it into the film industry. So that was, and I would work hard and did those 14, 12-hour days. And through the film industry, I worked on many TV shows and some films here and there. But friends were migrating over to Disney and to Imagineering. And I was like, I'm never going to work for Disney. Never, ever, ever. Well, I ended up working there for a while. And it was contractual, and I worked there until I got pregnant and had my son and stayed home for a while, and then couldn't sit still, and ended up having the opportunity to teach. And I taught at the School of Arts and Enterprise. And while teaching there, it was actually 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. And helped develop the art department, or the art component at the School of Arts. They gave me kids, 25 kids, a room, and just said, do what you want with them. So, I mean, we developed a program. I'm like, we got to do this, we got to do this. But at one point, I was teaching 7 different subjects. So it was mosaics, it was drawing and painting, it was a sculpture class. I figured it out. I mean, it was airbrush, and then I was like, this is too much. And I actually was able to go to the Chicago Art Institute for a teaching program, because I wanted to know that I was giving these kids AP level work. And I was like, wait, you mean what I'm doing is illegal? What? They're like, you should only be doing one class at a time and just drawing and painting. And I came back and was like, I don't have to do that. And I got fired. But that's okay, because after that, I was asked to help over at DAW, and I took on the task of trying to fill Joni Weldon's big shoes as a director, and I did it for 2 years, and it was a great experience. But again, all the love of this community, that's why I'm here. So did that for 2 years, and then ended up going back to Disney, where I'm at now. So I'm a senior artisan there, and I kind of coordinate things. And at Disney, and I do art outside of the chalk, so I have to tell you this too. But at Disney, all those things that I've learned have all come and culminating where we do things like every year they change it's the table at the Haunted Mansion. So it's during Nightmare Before Christmas. So we paint the elements. So that's a designer designed, and they bring it to us, and the carpenters make it, and we paint that. The mural over there, sometimes I do mural work. So that's in the Zocalo area, and it's for Encanto. If you go to Disneyland during the holidays, we'll paint the big props. Just recently, Fantasmic was shut down. There was a fire, Maleficent caught on fire. And so they had me come up with a illustration / animation for the Rivers of America. And so I had to come up and design what you see in front of the boat that goes along the river. But also with that, they had me draw in a chalk style animated figures that went to a jazz composition and audio. And you can go see it online. So that's just an element of that on the Rivers of America. And that's up till Fantasmic comes back. So it's up all summer. So, long story short, how did I get to chalk? Doing all of this and being involved in the arts, because I live, sleep, and breathe art, I had to have an escape. So chalk became like my escapism. I ended up when I was working at Imagineering the first time, I met a friend who said, oh yeah, there's this chalk festival in Santa Barbara. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Have you been there? Beautiful. And chalk there, They do it the old school way. So most of the images are painted in a very Italian Renaissance way. It's not contemporary necessarily, very beautiful, and that's the history. So, you know, it started in Italy, on the streets, in the squares, and in front of the different, well, I just say the centers and the squares. And so artists would go out there and they would make money, and oftentimes it was with religious imagery or very classical imagery, and the Montanaris. So I went there, and then I found a friend who had encouraged me to go to a chalk festival in Pasadena, and it was called Absolute Chalk. And I went there, and I was hooked. So I've been doing it for many, many years, and even there, people have all different takes on chalk. And the Pasadena Chalk Festival was originally called Absolute because they had Absolute Vodka that was sponsoring it. And the parties were real fun. Absolute doesn't sponsor it anymore. Now it's called the Pasadena Chalk Festival. But through that, you know, it's just been amazing. And it originally started at the Civic Center. It was in Hollywood at the Universal Studios. And then it moved to the Civic Auditorium downtown in Pasadena. And then it made its way over to Paseo, Colorado. And it's been there for a while. But as of last year, the new proprietors didn't want chalk there anymore. So it almost didn't happen, and we ended up relocating across the street. They stepped up over at the convention center. And so it happens every year, normally on Father's Day weekend. It's a 2-day event, and although this year for the first time, it's going to be the weekend after Father's Day. I just saw the individuals who put it on, and it's going to be actually the weekend after Father's Day. So I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to tell you about this. So people now do anamorphic. A good friend of mine is one that you see all over, and his name's Nate, and he does the ones that, you know, you go into the ground, and that's just blown up, and you can stand, and you're in the middle of it. And then people do anamorphic with the animals. This individual, I love her work. It's very fun, very bright. But if you can see, usually sitting but the slide next to it, that goes to show you how big and how long it stretched to do that actual trick, the visual effect. So they look like you're right there, but actually the actual piece may be 30 feet long. And then there's others that do dimensional. And so, you know, people ask about the medium and chalk. We use sidewalk chalk. And I brought some examples over here. There's just regular sidewalk chalk, pastels, but also one of the years when we were doing the chalk festival in Pasadena, I was like, my fingers are turning raw. There's got to be a way to do big areas. So I was like, wait, we got to grind it, make it up a powder. Maybe we can mix water. So I was using mucajetes. And I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, but then it would get stuck in the actual, the surface. So then I got this brilliant idea. I'm like, wait a second, I can use a coffee grinder. So I would grind my chalk out to a powder, and I could make a powder and add water to it, and I could paint with it. Well, from that, now people paint with tempera paint. So tempera paint, if you guys all remember, that's what you painted with when you were in kindergarten. It's a chalk paint. So you can paint with that, it's water-based, and it just washes away. So people use a combination nowadays, because chalk is just blown up, and there's so many different interpretations. So there's Absolute. And that is the first chalk piece I did. You see, my husband's name's there. He did help me once, and that's when he helped me. He said, never again. I'm the one that got the bug. He was like, okay, I'm done. So we did that, and it's just been ongoing. And again, chalk was my guilty pleasure and a way for me to escape from the rigors of what I was doing all the time. And I wouldn't tell people that I was doing chalk necessarily. Maybe I'd tell them I'd do it on Sunday when it was over, or the week after, because it was just my way to get out of my head. And I would pay honor and try and do a master or some artist that I loved and just kind of do their work in chalk, and it was just fun for me. But then it started to be where I would like to, it started to turn out, and I'd take on trying to send a message and tell stories with what I was chalking or what was in the current events. So the little girl that's the Indian was when there were some political challenges, and I wanted to tell people that these are our true Americans, you know, and I did different things. It's just really important to me to be able to tell stories with my work and symbolically. So these are just some of the images. There's my son when he was little, and it was when he was learning to read, so I wanted to do that. This was just playing with the woman with the sunglasses. She just looked very Audrey Hepburn to me, and she was cool. And I love the fur thing. I actually there's been a few times that I was able to win a prize doing chalk. I've won some of the titles, but honestly, a lot of people and a lot of us that do chalk, it's not about winning. It's just the camaraderie and just the joy of doing it. I'm often asked, well, it's going to disappear. You know, you put all this time to it, you're on your knees, but see, I tell people, if anything, what I've learned from it is nothing's forever. You got to live in the moment. And I always give individuals the example of the Buddhist monks that do the sand paintings. We've had them at the chalk festival. And as soon as they finish, literally, as soon as they finish, they sweep it up. And you're like, what are you doing? But that's the whole message, that nothing's forever. And we have to live in the moment and appreciate every single moment. So it's just been a journey. So these are some examples. And I just have done different styles. But with that, you know, again, I tell stories. I have been able to meet a wonderful group of people and travel. So this was the one I did last year at the Pasadena Chalk Festival. And so it's about our youth. And they are our future in the heart of the world. So there's the earth within that heart, if you can see that. And I'm a people watcher. I like people. It's my sport. So, and one of my favorite things to watch at this moment is the great portrait artist, the British portrait artist of the year. That's how I relax. And so I do a lot of portrait painting, and I do that in my chalk pieces. So if you see a lot of portraits, that's why. So this is at Ventura Harbor. So like I said, there's a chalk festival every weekend, all over the United States, all over the world. Chalk is just blown up. So I do, again, because of my time restraints and whatnot, I usually stick to the ones that are local or the ones that put me up. So, or they're very good to some of the artists, but it's not about the money or winning and all of that. It's just getting away and being around some really wonderful people. So this is the one I do in Ventura Harbor. So it's always a fun one. That's a great one. It's right around the harbor. So those are some of the pieces. You don't necessarily have to do a theme. There are some chalk festivals that have themes, and they want you to do a theme. So some individuals do a lot of water pieces, but I just mix it up. So these are from that area. I was just talking to somebody about cyclica. Am I saying it right? The bicycle. Cyclavia, thank you. I'll make it up. But Golden Streets, they had me do a piece for that when they did the first year. And then this one, Autism Highway, is something that is near and dear to my heart. The organizer is an amazing woman, and she was in Covina, and she was doing a chalk festival here in Covina, and it happens annually. So these are some of the images from that, and I have news for you. There will be one this coming weekend for Autism Highway in Pomona at Ganesha Park. At the end. That's my ta-da. These are also examples. I've been able to go to Mexico doing these. I purchased a house in La Paz because I discovered La Paz while doing a chalk festival. And I've gone to mostly here in Southern California, but I've been able to travel a bit doing the chalk. And as I said, meeting a group of people, it's very communal, the camaraderie is great, and just the most amazing people. There's no attitude, there's no, just loving environment, and we help each other out and whatnot. You don't need this, or you need a piece of chalk, you don't have this color, but there's a group of us that we call ourselves the Chalk Mafia. And so during COVID, because we were just itching to do chalk, we did some collaborative pieces. And so the Chalk Mafia changes, but there's an individual that lives here in Pomona who's part of the Chalk Mafia, and she gave up her driveway so we could chalk in her driveway. So we decided to do an octopus because it was when the Ventura Chalk Festival was going to take place. So mine is this one right here. You see where my name is? So they were 6 by 6 foot squares. And to give you an idea, in this slide, you see us standing there on the side in the driveway? That's how big it was. And we wore a mask, but we were like, we're outdoors, we got to chalk. So we did that during COVID. And another collaborative piece that is near and dear that I'm going to share with you, one of the individuals that was part of the Chalk Mafia, he had cerebral palsy, he had many physical ailments, but he would go and chalk. And unfortunately, he passed. And so we did a collaboration as a tribute to him. And then this is what it is. The theme of the Chalk Festival is space. So we put Keith in space, and all of us had a square. And that was my piece there with him. He just was a wonderful person, like tenacity, skied, you name it. Like there's people like that again who I've come across that give me the strength to do things. I'm like, oh, I can do that. That's what Keith did. I mean, he was just amazing, and within the chalk community. So we celebrated Keith, and then the year that we were going to chalk down at Paseo, the same year I think it was, 2021, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it. And then a group of us said, we got to chalk. So they gave us the permission to go, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Paseo, Colorado? So in front of P.F. Chang's downstairs and the escalators, we all took a piece, and you see the names there. So they were 8 feet long, I believe, the length of them, and I think they were 3 feet in width. So some of it overlapped. You can see I'm the third one in, and Marie and I were sharing the face of that older man. So that's my section of and where it looks like a shadow on the side, that's where my section stopped. So I don't have a picture of the final piece, but yeah. But that's what we did. It was the Norman Rockwell, and it was the one Do Unto Others, that piece of his, which was really, that was a fun collaboration. So hence we are. Working at Disney, all these years, I'm like, we need to be doing chalk. We have all this real estate, the chalk community, it costs nothing, it's performative, it's interactive, win, 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 win. And I did a proposal about 6 years ago. And I've been, tell me I can't do something, I'll find a way. People know me. So I finally, it fell on the ears of someone that heard me and saw me. And she kept saying, Marcy, just wait, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So COVID ended, inclusion became a big thing at Disney. And they started doing, it was for Black History Month, called Celebrate Soulfully, and it's downtown. Maybe you guys are familiar with that. And she goes, they want you to do chalk. Just do it. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, am I going to do Tiana? Am I going to do, Black Panther? Well, we were waiting for Chadwick Boseman's estate to give us the okay. And she goes, guess what? She goes, no, you just do you. And I go, what? What? No, just do you. And I'm like, what does that mean? She goes, do whatever you want. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? They don't do that. So Disney let me do what I wanted. So I use this opportunity to again tell a story and educate people. So my pieces, and I get choked up too, because it's like art can do wonders, and we all know that. Everybody in this room, educating, changing people's hearts, changing people's lives. And so I'm like, I'm gonna do some stuff and let people know what's going on in the world and what's important. So this piece is about the Crown Act. Do any of you guys know what the Crown Act is? A lot of people don't know that only 7 states in the United States have adopted it. It was passed in 2017, I believe. Wearing my hair like this, I would be sent home and sometimes fired. I get choked up. Only 7 states have adopted that. So I use the opportunity to do this piece. So I would tell people just like yourself, or I'm here in downtown, and they're like, what, the Crown Act? And I go, yeah. And I go, Black Lives Matters is more than you think it is. People can change their hair, they can dye their hair, but if I wear my hair in braids or in dreadlocks, people get sent home or fired for it. Does it matter how I work? I could get fired for that. But it doesn't, thank God, thank you, California. It's not like that here in California. And I tell people to go online, go look up, anytime at the beginning of the school year, there's always a kid that gets sent home because their hair is deemed unkept because they have braids in their hair or they're wearing an afro. My hair has to be in a natural state or it will fall out. If I process my hair will fall out. And that is why the history of Black women wear wigs. That's where it comes from. Because their hair was deemed unkept, so they could just throw a wig on their hair. So people don't know that. It's like, it's a huge part of our American culture that people are not aware of. So I use that opportunity. That's what this piece is about. It's the Crown Act. That's a pick. There's a little graphic. There's combs in there. You can see the drawings of the comb. Africa. There's just little elements in there, but that's what this piece is about. So this is all the first year when I got to do what I wanted to do. So the first one there is celebrating the tapestry and the patterns of African, the African patterns and tapestry. Yeah, there we go. Fabric. And then the other one, you see the woman on the top and she's got the hands out. Hands are really important to me too in my pieces because it's not only giving, but it's also receiving. That piece, there's a braid that's coming down because once again, African American history, slaves used to hide seeds in their braids. So when they were relocated to different plantations, they could plant a victory garden. Which I'm like, that's resilience and that's an amazing feat. So they would do that, so there's seeds around her, and then also braids themselves were maps. So they would braid patterns sometimes that were maps and clues, right? I know. So that was that piece. And then I did one because I got some guys that were going, come on, Marcy, when are you going to do the brothers? So I did a whole thing about jazz, and that's what the other one is over there. So first year I do that, I get told, oh, Kim Potrock wants to meet you. And I go, who's that? I had no idea. I'm like, what? I don't know who that is. If I don't know who you are, I'm fine. But when I know, then I'll freeze up. So they're like, Kim Potrock, he's the president of Disneyland. He wants to come see you. And I was like, oh, okay. So he came down one of the days before I was going to chalk. And I had the best time with him. And although I could not talk because during this, when I do the chalk down there, I'm talking all the time to kids and laughing. So I was talking like this. And he comes to see me and I go, of all the times I have to talk to you, I can't even talk. I sound like I smoke five packs of cigarettes a day, and I sound like Brenda Vaccaro. And he goes, well, I think it's kind of cool. And I go, I don't, right? So I was yucking with him, and I go, I'm pushing him around because I'm a touchy person too. And I said, you're from the East, you're an Eastern guy, right? And he goes, yeah, how'd you know? And I go, oh, I could tell. And I go, well, I have to say it's so refreshing that I can be able to be myself with you. And he goes, well, what other way you're going to be? And I go, You are the president of Disneyland, but he is one of the nicest people, and I have this rapport with him now, and he's a big supporter of the arts. So it's been an amazing journey, and so last year, now they had me do chalk downtown. And they have tried to squeeze me out of this because what I told them, if I do chalk, you're gonna see the public's gonna love it, our cast members are gonna love it, the designers are gonna want it, I'm just telling you. I go, it's, again, win, 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 win. Well, guess what? Everybody wants chalk now. So, and I've all along been saying, I just want to do a chalk festival down here. We have all this, and just to bring that element. They did one at one point, but it wasn't very big. But I have my hands in the chalk community, and I know what the chalk artist wants, and I go, I can be your madam. I'm like, I know what you want, and I know what you need. So that's what I've been working on to try and do that. But in the meantime, I'm very thankful and honored that they asked me to do this chalk now. And again, this was my guilty pleasure and my hobby. So I still work for the company doing the props, you know, and wearing my painter whites and doing that stuff. But then when they have opportunities to do chalk or whatnot, they have me do chalk. So that one was, if you can see the heart, and I turned the veins, the hair, and there's actually an African flag that is out there, and the American flag, because it's the same. They are the same. They are joined, and it's the heart, right? And then I did one on rock and roll, so that was really fun, and that is it's pretty interesting. You know, people are like, "Who's that?" And I go, that's Mr. Johnson. And so it was kind of cool to be able to tell people the story about that and selling your soul and all that stuff. But there's Robert Johnson and there's Bo Diddley, but I love going down the rabbit hole of history too. So, but you know, it's forced me to do all this original stuff in chalk, which is just, it's been a blast. It has been really wonderful. Women's Month, I actually did, that's a painting of one that I did in chalk. So sometimes when I do something in chalk, I will actually go back and revisit it as a painting. So if I really like it. So I've done that. And then I was honored and surprised, I became a legacy at Disney. And I don't know if you know what, any of you know what that is. Thank you. But just, I mean, even the day that it happened, I was working on something and I was painting black light marble. And I was doing it by myself and something was going on over here and I'm like, what is going on? I don't have time for this. And what it was when I became a legacy, they were like, they gave me, it was a presentation, it was a surprise, and it's just been, it's been interesting being legacy because it is, I'm like, now I got a target on my back. No, just kidding. But it's an honor because only, I think 2% of all Disney employees across the board get this honor. So I am floored because I still cuss. Anyways, this is one of the things that I did, and I was talking about the Phantasmic. So the Phantasmic right here, this is, it's really hard to get a good picture of it. You got to watch it online, but this is what is on the water that they display on the water. So, and it's a 5-minute show, and it's about a little frog that jumps into, he hears the music of New Orleans in the distance, and he jumps into the music, and then everything that I've animated comes to life. And it's just characters playing instruments, and it was really interesting doing that because I have not touched a Photoshop program for years. So it's like I had to go hard and I learned how to animate. So it's like they're really forcing me to stretch myself sometimes. So that is that. And then just recently, this year for Black History Month, these are sketches. I was headhunted to go to Disney World, and their downtown Disney there, Disney Springs, there's an area that's called the Art Walk, and they have artists from all over the world that have been able to paint murals there. And they asked me to come paint a mural. And these are the preliminary sketches. And the mural I want, again, I love to dig into history. I'm adopted and recently found out that I am Gullah. I don't know if you know what that is. And so I'm digging into that, and I was like, wait, there's a huge population of Gullah in Florida, right? And then the Gullah people, if you guys are not familiar with them, they are my DNA landed in the Carolinas. So the Gullah people are the oldest Africans to have arrived here. And they are the first African Americans that were given their freedom. And they still exist off the Carolinas. They've lived very quiet lives on the islands out there. They call them the Sea Islands. Maybe you guys are familiar with that. And if you've been over there, you might be familiar with the sweetgrass baskets. That's Gullah, right? And they've taken those baskets and they've compared them to baskets of African groups, and they're identical. So why they've been able to survive is because they've lived on their own for so long and away from kind of society. They had everything they needed, the food, the fish, but now they're under attack because nobody wanted those swampy islands. Everybody wants them. So there's some really terrible stuff that's happening there where they're taking the land from them. They actually have a real estate, it's a technique where if you have, I might have relatives that live there and they have land. If one of the relatives, there might be 50 of us that own that particular spot of land. If one relative, it's called heirs law, wants to sell, they can take it from you. So that's how they're kind of. So I found out I was Gullah, and I decided to do a piece about the Gullah people in honoring them. So this is the piece. And the three faces represent the past, she's the present, and then the future. Besides the seagrass baskets, what they're known for too is yellow rice was considered yellow gold because they were great farmers. And a lot of the things that we practice in our American culture is Gullah roots, and we don't even know it. So not only that, but the story of the tortoise and the hare is Gullah. Kumbaya is Gullah. There's so much, but the faces are in this really inky indigo blue because they were indigo dyers. So before rice was king and considered yellow gold, they would do indigo dyeing so much that their arms would be stained like tattoos. So that's why I chose to do their faces that way. And then the background represents the sea, and then you see the hair is the actual greenery of the tree and the roots, because we all have roots, and regardless of who you are, I keep telling people, like when I do this in chalk, I did end up doing it in chalk. Regardless of who you are, and I tell these kids, who cares what Britney Spears is doing? Who cares what Taylor? You got to go and talk to your aunts and uncles, because there's so much history there and beauty, and when it's gone, it's gone. So again, it was so great to be able to talk to the public and educate them about that. Well, I found out while I was there, I'm the first and only Disney cast member that they let do this. So I was like, wow. So it's like, it just keeps coming. And it's like, I'm not even asking. So it was really fun doing it. And then when I came back, I had to do chalk here in Anaheim. And I enjoyed that so much that I wanted to recreate it in chalk. So that's the chalk version of it. And for the first time, because they redid Downtown Disney, they had me do, and if you want it to rain, have me chalk, right? So we had some issues with the rain in February during Black History Month, so they had me do it on vinyl. So floor vinyl, I turn it over on the back and I roll it out and prime it, and then I use my chalk on top of that. And then they could move it if they wanted to, but they had to keep it flat, And again, they're like, well, we could spray it, and I said, that's not chalk. Because I still like to try and keep it true to its origins and its roots. And Food and Wine's going on right now. So they now again, the designers are like chalk, chalk, chalk. They had me reproduce an image that a coworker did. She and I worked on the animated piece on the water. So she designed it and I painted it to represent. So that's 9 by 14 feet. And so it's over in Disney California Adventures, and you can go and stand there and take a picture in front of it. So there's a lot happening, and all of this, that pitch has now come full circle. So I met with the creative director of entertainment, and hopefully I'm going to oversee implementing, I'm calling it performative visual arts. And so chalk, live painting, because this was live painting. I have some other things I want to do that include the little ones and kids, and this is for the company-wide. So, and also on the ships, and all over. So hopefully it's going to happen. But in the meantime, I'm really honored that I'm able to do this, and they're utilizing me. I mean, I love what I do, but it's time I like to be challenged. I guess that's what it is. It's time for me to do more. And so having this ability to leave the warehouse where I paint the different props and whatnot has been wonderful. And with that, I've organized different chalk festivals. We actually did one at DAW. We did two. We did two for DAW. And then while I was teaching at the SAY, because I had all the students, I said, it would be really cool to do a chalk festival downtown, and with people like Chris Tuvey, and I don't know if you know Vicky Tessier, another local Bad Mama Jamma, brought people together, and now they do a chalk festival in Pomona. Did we do one last year? Did they do one last year? So it's annual, usually in November, yeah? Yeah. So they do an annual one, and it's down in the plaza. If you haven't been to Pomona, it's beautiful, and then there's a plaza there. There's a big mural on the wall, and they do chalk there, and it's, at one point we had all schools in the Pomona School District there, and then they had professional artists there as well. So that's a picture, and in 2008 they honored me for helping to initiate it. And then these are pictures of my students when I taught. I taught these kids that were graffiti artists. And I'm like, instead of doing it on, maybe put it on canvas, maybe, and there's some of them now that are muralists, or I've got a few of them that are chalk artists, and one of them in particular who has always been under my wing, and I was like her little aunt, she now works for Lightbringer. Two of them work for Lightbringer. And so, I'd take them out, and that was a sculpture thing that we did, and we created these sculptures that we sent to polluters to change environmental. It was an environmental art class that I was teaching, and I took them out to, you guys familiar with this, the Super Dobies out in Hesperia? So I took them out there, and then we sent those statues to people who were actually making an effort to change and improve the environmental situation, and then to the really bad polluters as well. But we would paint murals for people and then make the money to go on field trips. And with that, this weekend is a chalk festival here in Pomona, as I mentioned. It's at Ganesha Park. And, again, I do my art outside of here, and I show in art shows and whatnot, but again, the idea of chalk, what I love is it's for all ages, and especially the little ones. Somebody over there is going to start doing chalk, I hope. I tell them you can never use the word can't. Maybe it's difficult, maybe it might be challenging, but there's no such thing as can't. And when they see that I just use street chalk, they go, oh my gosh. And that's the thing, it's introducing people to art. And I really enjoy that. So hopefully, if you are able to go this weekend or check it out, or Pasadena, but if you just go online and you say Southern California Chalk Festivals, you'll be able to find quite a bit. But they're everywhere, and every state, every weekend. So that concludes my talk. And if you have any questions, you're welcome. You're welcome.
We have time for a couple of questions. I guess I have one. When you know you're going to a festival, do you decide what you're going to do, and then do you, I see this big piece of graph paper and you're transferring it over to an 8-foot hunk of cement.
I use a chalk on a stick. I tape it to like my ruler. And I used to grid. Some people still grid. That's a technique as well. But sometimes I'll have images that I use directly. Like that's what I used to do because I didn't want to have to think. And so I just would copy it. I was a copy machine just kind of doing that. But now, I mix it up because I'm actually designing them. But it used to be that I'd have 3 images and sometimes because I couldn't make up my mind. So the day I'd get there and I'm like, how do I feel? And then I'd pick. So that happens too.
Since you probably can't crawl on top of the chalk when you're going, you must have to finish the area entirely before you, or more or less entirely before you sort of move on.
Well, again, people work in different techniques, and there is a great, I like to work from the inside out, right? But sometimes you have to go back because overnight, the moisture from the air will fade the color. But there is a great, the chalk artists got this. It's a gardening stool that flips. Have you guys seen those? And it's really great to get up too. but it's you can sit on it, but it flips and it's got a pad. A lot of people use cardboard. Cardboard doesn't tend to smear, but it's different techniques, but you work around it, and I like to work from inside out. Or I don't go from the top down. And oftentimes when I'm doing a face, I do the eyes first. Because the eyes, the whole thing, the windows of your soul. Once I get the eyes, I can relax. Because you nail it, and then you're like, okay, yeah.
Okay, similar question. You've been doing this for a number of years. How's it for your body? It looks like hard work.
It is. But it's really funny. There's different things. But people are always like, are your knees hurting? And I go, you know what hurts? The glutes. Because it's like doing squats all day, right? And but I just last week there was a new device, and you guys might have seen it. It's because it all blew up on the internet. They're like knee pads that you go down on, and they're attached to your leg. Did you see, anybody see those?
Yeah, they're hinged, right?
They're hinged, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool, but I don't know if I could do that. But, I am starting to they asked if I wanted to do the chalk on the wall this last time. I said, no, it has to be on the ground. I think I'm going to start doing it on the wall sometimes. It's starting to hurt.
Myrna?
Once you've created something, how long does it last?
Well, no, they can last for a while, and now that people when I do my chalk, I'll lay down a color that I actually use a roller, and I use the tempera paint, right? And then I paint on top of it so my colors pop. With the tempera paint, I don't paint the chalk. I use the regular pastels, but there have been times because of that technique, they will stay there for a while, like weeks. And then sometimes, even with the hosing and power washing, you can go back afterward and you can see a ghost. So it just depends on the technique. And we're not supposed to use anything but chalk. But the tempera painting technique tends to stay a little longer, And it depends on what chalk you use, because some chalks are more, they've got more density to them.
I was impressed with the scale of how you were working, and then the connection with murals. So it just seems like it's sort of
it's overlapping. It is. It's overlapping, and I was just saying, even if I get this position, it's everything I love, because it's connecting people, which I love to do that. I love people, working with young individuals and the public, and just doing art. They asked me if I wanted to do art. You might not be able to do it, and I said, well, you know, overseeing it, implementing it is fine, but they're like, but we'll probably let you do art. And I'm like, okay.
Well, again, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.